Well, Jeff Choate is back in a head coaching role, and it is now with the Nevada Wolfpack. The former Montana State Bobcat head coach was recently with the Texas Longhorns as a co-defensive coordinator, but now he's taking over a program that's just rebuilding, and ever since that really good year with Carson Strong and Jay Norvell, it just hasn't really worked out for the Wolfpack in the Mountain West Conference. But hey, can Jeff Choate find some momentum here back in a head coaching role and take the Nevada Wolfpack to a surprise 2024 season? Well, you're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. I want to welcome you to my channel and welcome you to the final day of prediction season. We got 3 more videos going up for you today, the final 3 teams that I have yet to cover on my channel. And thank you so much for all of your support this prediction season. It has been wonderful, and the channel has grown so much once again this summer. If you would like to continue to help support the channel, and if you are as big of a college football nerd as I am, you're going to want to hear what I have to say during the college football season, which means you got to hit the subscribe button and you got to ring the bell as well. That way you don't miss an upload. You can hear everything I have to say about the college football season. And please help support the channel in many more ways than that. You can support the channel by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else you guys can think of. Help support the channel. Does mean a lot to me. Final day of prediction season. Let's dive on in to the Nevada Wolfpack. Before we do that, though, you got to know how I'm going to talk about the Wolfpack in this video. Firstly, we'll take a deep dive into the team's offense, then a deep dive into the defense, and at the end of the video, we'll go through the Wolfpack football schedule and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. The only team this college football season, usually Hawaii is one of them, New Mexico State's been it in the past, the only team in the FBS this year to play 13 regular season games. So now, without further ado, let's dive on in talking about the Nevada Wolfpack. Couple more things before we do start, because I got to tell you right over here are the stats the team put up, either offensively or defensively from last season. And of course, for your viewing pleasure, or right down there below the team's logo, I went ahead and put the team's coaching staff for you. Again, taking a first stab at the Nevada Wolfpack by diving on in to their offense, which just wasn't great last year, guys. Only 300 yards per game. They had one of the worst third down offenses in the entire country. They only scored around 17 points per game and just couldn't get a whole lot going here with this offensive system. So this is an offense that's going to look to drastically improve its effort from last season. And, well, it is going to be losing some pretty important talent from last season. Quarterback position, no one super important, but you do lose a very, very experienced arm when Shane Illingsworth, a former Oklahoma State Cowboy who transferred over to Nevada, was with this program for a while, and now, has, I believe, entered the transfer portal. And yes, he has destination unknown for Shane Illingsworth at this time, but I think he's got 1 or 2 years of eligibility left. He'll spend it elsewhere other than the Nevada Wolfpack. So what do you have coming back here in this quarterback room? Well, your primary passer from last season was Brendan Lewis, and you are going to be getting him back to this team this year. 1,313 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 6 interceptions. That definitely can improve. You also do return A.J. Bianco as well. He had 614 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 5 picks in about 150 less pass attempts. Didn't see that much playing time, by the way. Illingsworth last year, 175 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 pick. So really, no matter which way you slice it, if it is one of these 2 returners that's going to be the starting quarterback for you this season, they got to find some sort of new rhythm. They got to find some way to turn it around. Quarterback play is going to have to improve for this team, really, no matter what. But you do bring a couple transfers in. Now, Chubba Purdy has overall not been fantastic as a collegiate athlete, but he is a Florida State transfer, now transferring over from Nebraska. Maybe you see him start a couple of games this season. I don't know if he'll be the primary starter in game 1. And then you also get Anthony Grigsby coming in here to this room as well. I'll tell you where he is from in just a second. He's coming over from the College of San Mateo, I believe a community / JUCO college. So when you look at this quarterback room here, really no matter whichever way you slice it, you got to get some improved quarterback play out of this team this season, whether that's Lewis taking a big step forward into a starting role, which is projected by ourlads.com that he will be the starter, Purdy or Grigsby, whether they step in, if A.J. Bianco gets the call. I think you have the potential to see all 4 quarterbacks play this year, and if I had to sort of predict anything right now, I probably would go with Brendan Lewis to be the day one starter, but I think you're going to see multiple starting quarterbacks for the Wolfpack this season as they try to fit in to the Jeff Choate system. Running back room, hey, no one notable is gone. You return two really, really important guys from this rushing attack last season. Hey, Brendan Lewis was the team's second leading rusher last year, so that's another factor in him getting that starting job. He can use his legs really well. 495 yards and 4 touchdowns last season. But your leading rusher in Sean Dollars returns 527 yards and 6 touchdowns for him last year. You also do get Ashton Hayes back, as well as a couple transfers. Savion Red is expected to take that lead role out of the backfield this season. He's a Texas transfer, and Patrick Garwo is coming over here as well. He's over from Boston College. You got a ton of other transfers coming into the room, but those two guys will play the biggest role in this running back room, at least to me, this upcoming season. Wide receiver room, you'll lose a ton of talent through the wide, or I should say just through the pass catching room in general, because you also lose a fairly valuable tight end as well. John Jackson III, only the third leading receiver on the team last year, but you could argue the most talented, and he did lead the team in receptions with 35 catches, 267 yards, no touchdowns last season, sadly, but again, Nevada just did not have a lot of passing touchdowns last year. He has gone off to the NFL, I believe, with the Chicago Bears, so you definitely are going to be seeing him playing in the preseason that's going on now, and definitely could be on Sundays if he earns a spot there on the team, but you're losing even more guys to the transfer portal. Dalvin Campbell, Spencer Curtis, and Jamal Bell. When you take a look, that's your first, second, and fourth leading receivers from last season. Campbell, the leader of them, 594 yards, 2 touchdowns on 31 catches. Really, really good player. And then as well as Isaac Crocker, could be pronounced Isaiah Crocker as well, but that is how it is spelled. So you are going to be losing him. He is gone due to graduation, 6th leading receiver for the team last year. And your 5th leading receiver was Kaleki Latu. He was a tight end last year, leading receiver among tight ends, and he has gone off through the transfer portal. So how about that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gone like that. All 6 top leading receivers off of this team are gone. So it's going to be an entirely new group of wide receivers. Well, okay, you still got some returners here in this room. Marshawn Brown, Cameron Ziedler, Nate Burleson, and Kola Babalola. Those are all going to be names that return here to the pass-catching room, as well as a couple transfers that most likely are going to play some very, very big minutes, especially when you talk about a guy that is coming over here from West Virginia and Cortez Bram. He's going to be a huge part to this passing attack, and Marcus Bellin is going to be entering this program as well. And he's going to play some pretty high significant impact minutes. Tight end room, well, Jaden O'Rourke does come back, but you also do get a transfer, and apologies if I butchered this name, over from Florida in Andrew Savinayea. I will actually fact check that pronunciation right now because I know I butchered that bad. I was a little closer than I gave myself credit for, but still pretty far off. Andrew Savinayea is going to be coming back here to this team. Again, probably still butchered it, so apologies, but you get him coming in, probably be the lead tight end for the Nevada Wolfpack this season. And on the offensive line, really only one notable loss that I could find is Zach Welch has gone and off due to graduation. So here's what your offensive line room looks like in 2024. Isaiah World, Frank Poso, Tyson Ruffins, Andrew Madrigal, Josh Grabowski, and Josiah Timoteo will all be offensive linemen that should see the field for Nevada this year. You could put a couple more pieces, a couple more names on there as well, but I think a combination of those 6 guys will end up being your starting 5 on the offensive line for the Wolfpack. So when you take a look overall at the offense for Nevada here in 2024, again, just a lot has to get better. How does the Jeff Choate system work? That's definitely going to be a big piece to try to figure out. But Brendan Lewis has all the tools to be an improved quarterback, and really anybody that plays quarterback for you this year needs to see improvement from their past. Even the transfers like Chubba Purdy and Anthony Grigsby, even though I'm not too familiar with Grigsby's stat line over with the College of San Mateo, definitely can show some improvement. Running back room should be improved. The wide receiver room should be improved. The offensive line, we'll see how they mesh, see how everything works out. They allowed 41 sacks last year. That's got to get better. It's just a lot of getting better and improving. At the bottom line, does the Nevada offense show improvement here in 2024? My bet would be yes, but we'll see what happens this upcoming season. Okay, rambled on a bit. We're going to go through the defense a little bit quicker than usual because they do lose a lot of names. So apologies if I don't read as much stats here when I talk about the defensive side, but there is a ton that leaves this defensive side of the football. And yes, while Jeff Choate was a defensive coordinator or a co-defensive coordinator with Texas, this is going to be a pretty tall task because not only do you lose a lot of talent. It just overall wasn't a great defense last season. So implementing a new system going to be something that will see its difficulties this year. But a ton of guys off the defensive line are gone through the transfer portal. Probably none bigger than Marcel Walker-Burgess, kind of that edge rusher. You could slot him in as a linebacker as well. Any guy of Marcel Walker-Burgess's caliber, kind of that edge rushing type that can also play linebacker. I've slotted him in here as a defensive lineman, but he had 46 tackles and led the defense with 4 sacks last season. Defense gathered 17 sacks last year. Walker-Burgess led the way with that, with 4 of them last year. You also are losing James Hansen, Dion Washington, Sosefo Milwaukee, and Dwight Togiola will also be gone here out of the room as well. When you talk about names that return to the defensive line, well, you are going to be getting Thomas Witt back. Hopefully is how you say that last name. 21 tackles last year as the leading tackler among defensive linemen that return. And here's what else you return on the defensive front. You'll be returning guys like Henry Ikahihifo, again, hopefully saying that name right, Jonathan Maldonado, Chris Smalley, and Machiavelli Malo Tumau. Hopefully, again, saying that name right, as well as some transfers like Nelson Ropati and Caden Johnson that'll be entering this room for you this year. All those guys probably going to see some pretty significant playing time this season. Linebacker room, you lose a good one when you do lose Davion Blackwell through the transfer portal. He had 20 tackles for the team last season, but you also are going to be losing Elijah Winston out of this room as well. Now, he had 17 tackles with a sack last season. So, again, you lose 2 pretty solid contributors out of the linebacking room, but leading tackler among linebackers in Drew Watts, well, you're going to get him coming back. 60 tackles, sack and a half for him last season. Sack and a half was second on the team, if my knowledge is correct. Well, okay, technically it was third, but still big contributor there is Drew Watts. You're going to get Stone Combs back. Jackson LeDuc is back. You also are going to be getting back Tongaiki Matei Lona. Hopefully, again, saying that name right. I know I probably butchered it. Got a pronunciation sheet down here to the best I could, but we'll see if that works out here for the Nevada Wolfpack and if the linebacking room gets any better for him here in 2024. Defensive back room, let's talk about some of their big losses. Jaden Dedman is going to be gone, as well as Isaiah Sesisima. I know I butchered that one. I'm actually going to fact check that. Okay, not that bad. Just too much emphasis. My apologies. Isaiah Sesisima will be gone here out of the transfer portal. Believe he's off and gone to Colorado State, but 2 fairly impactful transfers out of the corner, or 2 fairly impactful players out of the cornerback room. Again, Dedman gone due to graduation, and Sesima's gone due to the portal. But you lose your leader out of the secondary. Your leading tackler last year broke triple digits with 100 tackles. That is Imani Johnson. 3 interceptions, 100 tackles last year. And you're also going to be losing Richard Toney to the portal. Guys, he had 65 tackles, second leading tackler, 1 sack, 2 passes defended. So your 2 interception leaders from last year. And by the way, both those picks that Toney was able to gather, he ran them both back for touchdowns. Really good players out of the defensive back room are gone. Here's what you have coming back. KK Meyer, Michael Coates Jr., and Jonah Lewis Jr. are back in the cornerback room with Nathaniel Floyd entering as a transfer. And in the safety room, Kane Savage and Aiden Sayuli is back here in the safety room. And Keaton Crawford, Keyshawn Cobb, and Davis Mallinger are all back in the safety room, or I should say are all coming in the safety room as transfers. You also, hey, kickers are people too. We got to show them some love. You are going to be losing Brandon Talton as a kicker and Matt Green as a punter. Both those guys gone and off due to graduation. So here's what you do have returning. Matthew Killam is back to be your kicker. And in the transfer portal, you go get a punter by the name of Guy Gillespie. Again, defensively, you're implementing a new system. You bring in some pretty talented transfer portal pieces. You have some nice returning pieces. Again, if I were to place my sort of predictions, I do think that Nevada's defense will improve. How improved will it be? Again, that's kind of hard to say. It depends on how well some of these transfers fit in, how much the talent they lose really affects this defense, and I think it's going to affect them quite a bit. You lose a lot of really talented pieces from last season. Maybe the linebacker room is kind of the strength here of this defense, as you lose 2 guys that probably more than likely were depth pieces last year, but or I'd say a little bit depth pieces, like second string. But hey, getting Drew Watts back is huge. What I'm trying to say, you got a lot of solid talent. We'll see how the defense improves for the Wolfpack this season. And now you take a look at the football schedule again. I'll say it again. Only team this season to play 13 regular season games. We'll dive all into it right now. Any game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics or that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Wolfpack are going to win fairly easily, while any game in yellow is a close competitive one, but I still see the Wolfpack being able to win. Any game in red is a loss, and just a fair warning, there will be a lot of red here on screen. So let's go ahead, start diving into things for the Nevada Wolfpack. You got to play the brand new addition to the Power 5 this season. I know there was a lot of movement in the Power 5, but there was one team that made the jump from Group of 5 to Power 5 this year. It was the SMU Mustangs, and I think they're going to be ready to compete in the ACC right away. Preston Stone is a stud. SMU's got a lot of speed offensively and defensively. That'll just be too much for the Wolfpack to handle, and this is one of the very few games that will be played in Week 0, guys, less than 2 weeks from right now. And I do think Nevada's going to end up losing that one there. SMU, way too talented for this Wolfpack team to handle. And I think that SMU will be able, again, to win that game week 1. You got to play 2 Sun Belt opponents here now, the Troy Trojans and the Georgia Southern Eagles. And I think you lose both of them. Yes, Troy did lose a lot of talent from last season. Gunnar Watson, gone. You also are losing Kamani Vidal, who is one of the best running backs in the country, as well as a ton of defensive pieces, and not to mention John Sumrall, your head coach, is off to Troy. And while the Gerard Parker is, okay, it's okay. I think Troy's got a lot of solid talent. They bring in some nice transfers, and they're going to have a fairly successful 2024 campaign. And then you get to play the Georgia Southern Eagles and Clay Helton. His team is going to be pretty solid this season as well. Got to improve some things on the defensive end, but overall offensively, you're returning a lot of really good talent. Jalen White is back. Some really good wide receiver pieces are back. And I just think, again, Georgia Southern going to be a little too much for Nevada to handle. So that's going to be a win there for the Eagles. Loss for the Wolfpack. Still without a win to start off the 2024 season. And I think they go on the road and lose to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They could have found a diamond in the rough there with Max Brosmer. He's coming over from New Hampshire, trying to provide some lift and life to this Minnesota offense, one that likely hasn't been seen since Tanner Morgan rolled through there in 2019. And you had all those phenomenal wide receivers, Rashad Bateman and others. Minnesota's got some really good talent on it this season. Got to fill in some gaps. But with Max Brosmer there and a solid defense under PJ Fleck, Minnesota will watch out for him. They could be a sneaky one out of the Big Ten Conference. You do get a home game against Eastern Washington here as well. And Eastern Washington going to be one of the better FCS sides this season, as they usually are. Now, playoffs for Eastern Washington, we could definitely sit here and discuss that all day. But when you talk about the Eastern Washington Eagles, I do believe, yes, that's correct, they are the Eagles. Nevada's going to get at least 1 win, maybe 2 wins this season. And I mean, look, it definitely could be that game against San Jose State. You could go on the road and play Hawaii. But again, those are road games. You're going to want to start off some momentum with a win at home. And while this is one of the more likely FCS to FBS upsets that you could pick this season, I think that Nevada's going to be able to get this one done, guys. I like the Wolfpack to be able to win this one, even though, again, I don't feel super confident about it because, again, I just don't think Nevada has a lot of great talent. Eastern Washington going to be a pretty solid FCS team this year. They, I believe, have pulled off upsets against FBF teams in the past, if not have come very, very close. I think Eastern Washington going to be very competitive, but the Wolfpack are going to be able to get that done. And then you get your first of only 2 bye weeks because Nevada does play 13 games. They do play in week 0, but they still only get 2 bye weeks. Normally teams that play in week 0 this year get 3, but you will only get 2 this upcoming season. Got to go on the road and play the San Jose State Spartans. And look, the Spartans are just not a team I like this year. Brent Brennan is gone. You're losing a ton of other talent off of that Spartans team. But I do think that there are some really good pieces there and some pieces that I still think are going to excel for the Spartans this year, and they're going to lead them to a win against the Nevada Wolfpack. They get this game at home as well. If the game was at home for Nevada, might be reconsidering how I predict that game, but I do think that Nevada can be fairly competitive in this one. I don't think they're going to be able to win. Oregon State. Oregon State is still more talented than Nevada, even with all they lost. DJU gone, Silas Bolden gone, Damian Martinez gone, Easton Mascarenas Arnold, ton of defensive pieces gone. But hey, you still got Ben Branson there, Giovanni McCoy is coming over from Idaho. Really good quarterback for the Vandals last season. Maybe he gets the starting role here over Bengal Branson. And overall, when you take a look at Oregon State, I mean, they still got a lot of nice, solid talent here, kind of deciding what their future looks like. I think they'll have a fairly successful season. Maybe not as successful as last year, but they still are better than the Nevada Wolfpack. So that's a win there for the Oregon State Beavers. Another loss for Nevada will come against the Fresno State Bulldogs. Again, just not a team that I think is very good. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, and I actually kind of flipped my script here. Nevada, again, just not a team I think is going to see a lot of success this season. And Fresno State, this is where I was going. I just wildly misspoke. Fresno State is still going to be a good Mountain West team this year, even though their head coach, Jeff Tedford, has stepped down due to health concerns. Fresno State still got Mikey Keene, still got some really good offensive pieces, and Fresno State's just going to be a solid side this year. The passing attack of Hawaii will be too much for Nevada to handle. You are getting Braden Shager back there, some really good at wide receiver pieces. Yeah, you got to improve the defense, fill in a couple gaps here and there, but overall, Hawaii going to be a pretty solid team out of the Mountain West Conference this season. Then you get a home game against the Colorado State Rams and your former head coach in Jay Norvell. Now, Jay Norvell has slowly helped this Colorado State program rise, and that's going to continue again here into 2024. Colorado State's going to be an improved team from where they have been in a couple seasons prior, and Colorado State going to be able here to win. They also still have one of the best wide receivers in the entire Mountain West, and that is Torrey Horton. They're going to be able to win that one. No explanation needed here for this Boise State prediction. Ashton Genty is coming back. Malachi Nelson is transferring in. You just got a ton of talent here with this Boise State team. They very well could be the most talented team in the Group of 5 realm and probably the Group of 5 favorite to get into the college football playoff. Boise State wins that one. Okay. Well, there you go. That spoils my prediction for the UNLV game. But I'll talk about both of these games here because I think both of these teams, both Air Force and UNLV, are more talented than the Nevada Wolfpack. We'll start out with the one against Air Force. After their second bye week, Air Force, yes, lost a ton of starters off of last year's team. But that is still going to be one of the better teams in the Mountain West, as Troy Calhoun is, again, just an exceptionally good head coach. And then UNLV, even though Jaden Maeva is gone, they lose some other really solid talent. Ricky White is still there, got some really good offensive, defensive pieces. The team that just made the conference championship game last year, they're going to push to do it again this upcoming season. And overall, that leads me to a record of 1-12 for the Nevada Wolfpack. Yes, 1-12. I just don't see it being a great year for Nevada this season. I think give Jeff Choate a little bit of time, and he very well could see this system sort of start to work and Nevada get on the rise here. But overall, I mean, it's going to take some time for him to get back into a head coaching role. It's going to take some time for this Nevada to sort of recoup its talent, get Jeff Choate's guys here within this system. Just don't think it's going to be a great year for the Wolfpack. They sit towards, if not at the bottom of the Mountain West Conference. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. 2 videos left, and we're on to the ULM Warhawks. Goodbye.